The Islanders bounced back and scored an important 6-3 win over the Anaheim Ducks. We'll talk about the exciting new line combination that helped make that win possible, some interesting lineup choices by Lane Lambert, and a whole lot more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Thursday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Gil Martin, so glad you could be with us today, and thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Lots to discuss today, but first, if you've got something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question for us, a comment about something we've discussed on the show, or maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, feel free to send us an email. The email address is lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever it is that's on your mind. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on Twitter at Ice Wars, NYRVSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game, so join me for instant insight and analysis, and it's always great to talk a little Islanders hockey with Islander fans, game time or anytime. So you can reach out on Twitter, you can reach out via email, and of course in the comments section of our YouTube page, and make sure you subscribe there to get the latest episodes when they come out. Big win for the New York Islanders on Wednesday night, a 6-3 victory over the Anaheim Ducks. And was it always pretty? No, it wasn't, but it was necessary, and the team overcame a slow start in order to get this victory. And, you know, one thing that was a little disappointing was the fact that even though the Islanders needed this game so badly, they came out a little bit flat, gave up a goal 25 seconds into the game. And in the first period, even though the Islanders outshot the Ducks, they did not look like they were playing smart hockey. The tone of the game was really kind of controlled by Anaheim. The style of hockey was in favor of the Ducks, and Anaheim held a 2-1 lead after that first period. And yeah, the Islanders outshot the Ducks significantly in that first period, but the style of hockey, the way the game was played, was a lot more Ducks oriented. The Islanders were kind of careless with the puck in their own zone, a little bit sloppy, and that was a big disappointment. But after the first period, the Islanders really took control of the game, got 5 unanswered goals, and coasted to the 6-3 win. Some interesting decisions in this game, and the most obvious one was the decision to go with Ilya Sorokin again in goal on the second night of a back-to-back when Sorokin played the previous night in LA. And, you know, to me, that is an indicator that this team realized how important this game was, that they absolutely needed to win, and therefore they wanted their best goalie, even if he, was coming off that back-to-back. They figured that Sorokin gave them a better chance to beat the Ducks than Semyon Varlamov did. And you could go back and say, okay, if we're relying on Sorokin that much, why didn't they trade Varlamov at the deadline? Let him play somewhere else, give him a chance, and get something for him. To me, it really means that the Islanders intend to re-sign Varlamov this offseason if they can help it. And but it also shows a certain lack of confidence, or the fact that when the chips are down, when they feel that they're in a must-win situation, they're going with Ilya Sorokin. The other decision that I thought was interesting was the decision to bench as a healthy scratch Josh Bailey. And look, Bales was on the first line the previous game just one night ago against Anaheim. He didn't really show a lot. And as I said on the show yesterday, Josh Bailey at this stage in his career is not a first line forward. He just isn't. And, he was playing better on the fourth line, playing, doing okay on the third line, but having him on the first line right now really doesn't make sense. And so he goes from the first line all the way to a healthy scratch in one night. And back into the lineup, Simon Holmstrom, and Holmstrom got a lot more ice time in this one than you maybe would have expected. Holmstrom, even though he only had one shot on goal and one takeaway, played almost 14 and a half minutes for the Islanders. And, again, Holmstrom not going to figure in the scoring that often, but at least, did his job when all was said and done. So who replaces Bailey on the first line opposite Bo Horvat and Anders Lee? Kind of another curious choice. And that one in this game, at least initially, was Hudson Fasching. And I didn't particularly like that move either. To me, Fasching is an ideal bottom six forward. And look, I'm a big Hudson Fasching fan. If you've listened to this podcast or watched this podcast regularly, you know I appreciate what Fasching brings to the table. I like his hustle. He keeps the game simple. He plays smart, and he never stops hustling. But fitting him in on the first line didn't make a whole lot of sense, and he didn't really spend most of the game there, although he also played a hair more than 14 minutes and ended up scoring a goal on his only shot on goal in this game. But I don't think his style of play really works on the top line. I understand in theory that you don't have a lot of great choices on the top line as long as Matthew Barzal is not available. And we still don't have any indication that he's even skating again and practicing again and even close to returning. But, Hudson Fasching, great bottom six player. Maybe you could sneak him in on the second line, but on the first line, I don't think that made a whole lot of sense. So those were sort of the lineup moves. But what Lane Lambert did put together that worked extremely, extremely well was a second line of Brock Nelson, Pierre Engvall, and Kyle Palmieri. We're going to talk about what that trio got done in this game and how well they worked when we come back. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We're past the midway point of the NBA season, so now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scorers and threes drained. And look, you can use your knowledge of the Islanders on FanDuel. Check out the odds for this Saturday's big game in San Jose on the app. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. So, as I mentioned, Lane Lambert putting together that new line of Nelson, Engvall, and Palmieri. And I got to say, this trio was the reason, more than anything, for the victory. 2 goals for Brock Nelson, a 4-point night for Kyle Palmieri. That's a goal and 3 assists. And some of the passes he made to set things up were extremely, extremely impressive. He was a +4. Nelson and Engvall, all 3 of them, +4 in this game. And for Pierre Engvall, a goal and an assist. That's a 2-point night. He now has goals in 3 consecutive games. And what I like about Engvall right now, here's a guy who was buried on the Maple Leafs roster, wasn't going to get a lot of power play time or top 6 minutes because of the offensive talent and depth that you have on that Maple Leafs roster. But here with the Islanders, his speed, his willingness to shoot, and just the way he's sort of starting to fit in and get used to the Islanders system and getting used to his new teammates, that to me has been very impressive. 3 straight games with a goal, 3 straight games with at least a point, and he really did fit in well on the line with Palmieri and Nelson. So that trio really making a difference for the Islanders in this game. And I've got to say, it was impressive to see them do what they needed to do. And then you had J.G. Pageau, Zach Parise, and Simon Holmstrom as your third line, and then the identity line, Cizikas, Martin, and Clutterbuck as your fourth line. Got to say, they struggled a little bit, especially early in the game. Wasn't the best game for the identity line, but they weren't really needed. And I like the new defense pairs as well. They sort of changed it around, although Aho and Dobson, which I still don't like, were paired together early in the game. But overall, the Islanders getting the job done. And, again, was this a pretty win? No. But after a sloppy first period, they kind of, settled down and found a way to get the job done. I still have some concerns about this team. The power play continues to underwhelm. And, even the Ducks, who are a struggling team, they scored on the power play. And if you watched the game and you saw the power play goal that the Ducks scored, and that was the last goal of the game, a little less than 5 minutes left. Shattenkirk getting it, Kevin Shattenkirk, and he had 2 goals in this game. But even the Ducks, who are near the bottom of the league on the power play this year, the way they moved the puck, quick passes, the players are moving without the puck, all the things that they did so effectively, the Islanders don't do any of it. The puck movement isn't there. The passing, isn't there, and the players are not moving without the puck. You saw the Ducks, who came into this game in like the bottom 5 in the league with the extra attacker, at least put together a strategy that enables the power play to tire and wear down the penalty killers. Islanders didn't do that. And when they had the man advantage, again, the best scoring chance on one of the Islanders' power plays was a near shorthanded breakaway by the Ducks. It has to change. I'm liking what I'm seeing from J.G. Pageau. I think he, again, had a solid game, was on the scoreboard in this one, and that's always important with the assist. His line was a +2, and he and Parise really sort of teamed up well, and Parise, really hustling and getting things done. So overall, I think this was a solid performance by the New York Islanders a much needed performance. And, that was just a little desperation after a shaky first period. And we need to see that desperation because it's desperate times. You got 12 games left on the schedule. 12 games is it. And you're going to need points in at least, I'd say, 8 or 9 of them, depending on how many wins and how many loser points we're talking about. But you really need to get the job done. And here's an interesting stat that I sort of did not think about. When the Islanders allow the first goal of the game this year, they are 13, 17, and 4. To get points in 17 of the 34 games that you've played where you allow the first goal that's half the games. That's a pretty impressive number for the Islanders, and I am very happy to see them come through with that and just get that done and not give up and really just play a solid, not be intimidated, I guess is the way I would put it, when they fall behind. By the way, the 4-point night for Kyle Palmieri, a new single game career high. So that was certainly very, very encouraging. And 2 more assists for Adam Pelech in this game. And Pelech, 25 minutes of ice time. He is doing well. Am I concerned about Bo Horvat? Let's address that. He's not producing a lot of points in recent games. Did not score a goal or have an assist, was a -1 in this game. Did manage 3 shots, no hits, no block shots. Kind of a, nondescript game at times, but he's getting his chances. And I'm not all that worried about him. And in the faceoff circle, by the way, 10 out of 14 faceoffs won, which was big because the Islanders, Brock Nelson only won 5 out of 14, JG Pageau 5 out of 10. So, getting those big faceoff wins from Horvat and Cizikas, who was 4 out of 6, definitely helping the Islanders. And you could see that Horvat is getting his chances. And I think the goals and the points will come. And even if he's not scoring more often than not, we see that he contributes to the way the team plays. For Ilya Sorokin, while I was surprised he started, he gave up 3 goals on only 23 shots. Can't say that any of the goals were really soft. He was okay. He was solid. He wasn't outstanding. He wasn't terrible. But again, he got the job done. And for the Islanders to sort of overcome the slow start and get this win, which they so badly needed, really was important for the Islanders. We have got more to get to on this episode of the show. We have our unsung hero of the game, our GOAT of the game, and our Islanders birthday of the day, a member of the Islanders dynasty years. So let's see if you can guess who that forward is. We've got all that and a lot more still to come on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by the Adam Rothstein Hockey Podcast newsletter. Hey, Islanders fans, are you looking for the best hockey newsletter on the internet? Well, look no further. The Adam Rothstein Hockey Podcast newsletter is the best newsletter for any hockey fan, whether it's talking about the history of hockey, hockey video games, or how to improve your game. You'll find all that and more in this newsletter. Also, if you like the newsletter, be sure to check out the main podcast. It's available on Spotify. Log on to rothsteina.substack.com. That's rothsteina teina.substack.com. Hope to see you there. So our unsung hero and our GOAT of the game. This one is, I think it's pretty easy for the unsung hero. I'm going with Pierre Engvall for just the goal, the assist, the +4. Was he the first star of the game? No, but he really was effective, and he really played solid. You could see the confidence growing in Pierre Engvall as he's getting more comfortable with his teammates, as he's getting more comfortable with what is being asked of him by Lane Lambert. You're seeing more and more of him, and he's making the most of his opportunities. His speed is a badly needed facet of the game that, especially after trading away Anthony Beauvillier, the Islanders needed that speed in the lineup, and with Matthew Barzal still out with an injury, you're lacking even more speed. So getting Engvall, I think, has helped in that regard, and quietly, he is playing very well. I'll make Adam Pelech another candidate. He would be my runner-up for the unsung hero of the game. Quietly, 2 assists, a block shot, led the team in ice time in this game. And by the way, the Ducks official scorer is a lot more lenient with hits. They don't count hits all that much. Martin and Clutterbuck and Alexander Romanov, each had 3 to lead the Islanders, but they just don't seem to give a lot of hits. As for the GOAT of the game, I'm going with Noah Dobson. And yeah, he was a +2 and he had an assist, but every time Noah Dobson handles the puck in his own zone, I hold my breath. I get nervous. He just gives the puck away a little too often, has a little too much trouble clearing the puck out of the Islanders' zone, and it's been frustrating to watch him kind of regress, really, on the ice in his own zone. He wasn't this bad last year, and I know he was learning a lot from Zdeno Chara, and I know that he really was a little more disciplined and keeping it simple in his own zone under Barry Trotz. But, in this game and in recent games, he just seems to have regressed defensively, and I'm hoping that the Islanders can sort of get him a little bit turned around. I like the fact that he and Aho were not paired together later on in this game, and I hope they keep them separate. And yeah, I'm going to add this. Dobson, a big part of the power play not getting the job done either. So that's another reason why I made him our GOAT of the game, even though the Islanders played well overall and ended up with the 6-3 win. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And today is the 63rd birthday of former Islanders winger Duane Sutter, the Viking Alberta native, one of the famous Sutter brothers. Duane and Brent both played for the Isles. He was the first-round pick of the Islanders back in 1979. And, he had a 50-goal, 125-point season with the Lethbridge Broncos of the old Western Hockey League in juniors. And, that was a second straight 100-plus point season for Duane Sutter. And he was just, outstanding. Comes to the Islanders in 79-80, had 15 goals in just 56 games as a rookie. Only had one 20-goal season with the Isles. That was 85-86, where he had 20 goals and 53 points, which tied his career high. But he was an integral part of all 4 Islanders Stanley Cup teams. And in 82-83, the last year the Islanders won the Cup, he had 21 points, 9 goals and 21 points in 20 playoff games. finished his career with the Chicago Blackhawks, later went on to be a head coach in the IHL and an assistant coach and briefly a head coach with the Florida Panthers in the NHL in 2000, 2001, and 2001, 2002. Finished his NHL career with 731 NHL games, 139 goals, 342 points, 1,333 penalty minutes. But he raised his game in the playoffs. In fact, if we go back and look at his most memorable game as an Islander, it was a playoff game. We're talking about Game 2 of the Patrick Division Finals back in 1983, April 15th, 1983 to be exact, at the Nassau Coliseum. Isles already up 1-0 in the series, and they go on to beat the Rangers at the Nassau Coliseum 5-0. 4 goals scored by Sutter brothers, 3 of them by Dwayne, including one on the power play, and that was his only career NHL hat trick, but it came in the playoffs against the Rangers, gave the Isles a 2-0 lead in a series they eventually won in 6 games. And, Dwayne Sutter, a big part of the Islanders' dynasty years. So happy 63rd birthday to Dwayne Sutter. He is our Islanders' birthday of the day. We will be back tomorrow. We will have a preview of Saturday's game against the San Jose Sharks. Want to thank everybody for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. Now make your second listen game to game NHL. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every contest from across the National Hockey League with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Good news, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled start time on YouTube, premiere at midnight, and on your regular podcatchers will be up at around 12:22 a.m. So no more late starts for the podcast, and all the rest of the games after Saturday, by the way, will be in the Eastern Conference, and no really late games anymore. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.